Hey guys, so I know a lot of you have been requesting a video on how I do my full dip application. So here it is. I tried to keep it as short as possible. I do speed through a couple of things, but I'm pretty sure I cover everything. So I'm starting here with my bare naked nails. That one's a tea bag repair. So if you haven't seen that video and you want to learn how to do that, it's on this channel. I'll put a link down below. But for this application, I'll be using a color called Illuminate. It's by Revel. It's a glow powder, which is kind of cool, and I've never used one before. So we're going to play around with that. So I'll need my base. I'll need the Seal Protect or any kind of activator that you have. The Bond, which I like to use. Not everybody uses it, but I like it as an extra insurance policy to dehydrate my nail. You'll also need a file, a buffing block, and I will also be using a brush to dust off excess powder, as well as my handy dandy e-file, which I love more than a lot of things these days. My e-file has been my lifesaver for the last few months, and I'll link that down below as well. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to prep our nails with a dehydrator. And again, you don't have to use a Kiara Sky. I just have never had a problem with it, and I started with Kiara Sky, so that's pretty much my go-to. I really actually haven't used any others because I like this one so much. And all it does is take oils off of your nail plate so the product can adhere better to your nail, which will reduce lifting and and breakage and chips and stuff like that. So I apply that to all of my nails. And then I will let that dry for just a second before I start with my base application. And I know a lot of you had questions about how I actually apply my base and how I clean up my cuticles and stuff. So we'll go through all of that. One thing that you should be doing, which you just saw, was rotate and break up any particles inside your dip powders that may be there. I like to roll it around, twist it around, and then I'll take a cuticle stick, or if you don't have cuticle sticks, you can use a toothpick, and just give it a little swirl inside. It does fluff it up a little bit, so when you dip your nail into the dip powder, it doesn't have some sort of weird ledge on the free edge of the nail from being pushed into the powder. It's very light and fluffy, and it goes in a lot smoother too. So that's a helpful tip for you. I'm going to zoom in so you can see a little bit better how I apply the base and such. I use triple vitamin base. It's my go-to base, just the one I've always used. And I like to get it close to the cuticle and then fan the brush up just ever so slightly. I'm not touching my cuticle per se, but I'm seriously close to it. I doubt it's even a hairline away. And we're going to clean this up later on with the e-file, so I'm not even too worried about it. And if you can see it, I do put a good portion of that brush down on my nail when I'm applying the base. I feel like that keeps the base layer, pretty thin and even. So that's going to make your product more even as well. And then I just dip into the powder, let it sit for a second, take it out, tap it off. And I'll take my cuticle stick. Again, you could use a toothpick. And I'll just run that around in between the edge, the sidewall of my nail and the skin, just to get any excess base or powder or gunk from in between, the sidewall and the skin, because that'll be a pain in the butt to file later. I'm sorry that cut out. My daughter actually called me from her bedroom. I'm sitting in the next room, so I had to deal with that for a second. But I did the same thing on my pointer finger, and I'm going to do the same thing for all of my fingers. And I will speed this up for you here in a little bit, just because I don't want to bore you with a crazy 45-minute to an hour long nail tutorial-ish type video. But here's a better view of me laying that brush down, a good part of the bristles of that brush down on the nail. And you can see I am going pretty slowly and intentionally with my brush strokes, just to make sure the base is as even as possible, because when you put that powder on, that powder, as you know, will stick to whatever that base is, or wherever that base is. So if you get base, anywhere on your cuticles or on your skin or if it's uneven for whatever reason, your powder application is going to be uneven too, which is, is fixable. It's just, it's going to take a little bit more time, a little bit more filing, and it can cause some frustrations, making you not want to do this anymore. So the more I can give you to prevent that, I feel like the better off you might be. So again, doing this on all of my nails. I guess maybe I'll tell you a little bit how I got started with this whole thing. I'm a DIYer. I'm not a nail technician. I wound up seeing some sort of dip nail. I think it was on Facebook maybe. And I was like, I'm paying, a good amount of money to go get my nails done every month, every couple of weeks rather, at the salon. I can do this at home, no problem. So I went to Ulta and picked up, I think it was red carpet maybe, which I did not care for at all. The liquids they have are super weird, and their brushes are so tiny, and I feel like they dry out quick. I wasn't a big fan of red carpet, so that's what I started with. And I saw how easy the process was and kind of graduated up from there. But here in the video, you'll see me brushing my nails off. I always brush off my excess, especially from my fingertips, before I move on to my next hand, just because I hate the texture of that powder on my fingers when I'm trying to brush on base and stuff. So I've done my other hand now, and now we're going to go in for layer 2. And again, make sure you're brushing off your excess powder before you reapply your base, because that's going to cause your brush to get full of gunk, and it'll cause your nails to be super thick and uneven and bumpy and weird. So do brush off your powder, and you can use a big fluffy makeup brush. I actually got my brushes on Amazon. They are titled, I believe, nail brushes, like they're specifically used in nail salons. I don't know if it means they're designed differently or if it can withstand certain products, but I did get the nail art brushes, and they weren't expensive. I'll leave info down in the description box for you. I don't think it couldn't have been more than, $10, and I got maybe six or 8 brushes in the set, and they're really cute. They're nice brushes. So I have one brush dedicated for glitter powders. I have one brush dedicated for my clear powder. I have one brush dedicated for shimmers, because those of you who have used shimmers before, you use shimmer one time and it's like Tinkerbell threw up everywhere. There is just shimmer for days. It never goes away. It's on your clothes, it's in your hair, it winds up everywhere. So I have dedicated brushes for all my dedicated different types of powder. I have one brush for my dark colors, one brush for my light colors, just because I'm a little anal retentive and OCD, and I don't like to, cross-contaminate glitter with non-glitter, because if you're anything like me and you get one speck of glitter in a matte nail, it's going to drive you nuts, because it drives me nuts. So again, I'm doing the same thing here that I did when I did my first layer of base and powder. I apply the base, I dip into the jar, then I do go around every single nail every time I dip with my cuticle stick and just clean up the edges around my nails, just because, it's a fixable, yes, but it's just gonna, cost you a little more time after you're done filing and buffing and whatever. And I have 3 kids and 5 cats, and I'm a full-time student and a volunteer at my Humane Society. Like, I don't have time to do my nails, much less do, extra stuff, because I messed up. So, yeah, I got something in there. Probably was a piece of glitter. I bet you it was a piece of glitter. I'm sorry if I'm speeding this up and it looks like I'm being aggressive with my hands. I'm not, I promise. I just sped it up to cut this video time down a little bit. Now, one thing I can tell you about the triple vitamin liquids, I've only used the base. But I can tell you that I've used a couple of other bases before, and a lot of them have a very, very strong odor to the point where it burns your eyes. This base, I've not really felt that at all. I do get a little congested, but I do have also severe allergies, and I have 5 cats, and I live in Florida, so I can't tell you if my allergies are from the products that I used or if they're from my house or my environment or what. But as far as a strong glue smell from the base goes, not a whole lot of that from the triple vitamin base. The other products, the other liquids, the Activator and stuff, never really bothered me anyway, but this base is good if you have a sensitive nose. Okay, so this is clear dip powder. I know I've said this, and for those of you who have watched my other videos and have heard me say this a million times, I apologize for sounding like a broken record yet again. Encapsulate every mani you do with clear dip powder. This does a few things. One, it will soften any imperfections in your nail, slight imperfections. I mean, it's not going to fix a crater, but it'll soften imperfections. Two, it's going to protect the color you just put on your nails when you file and buff. Because sometimes if you forget or if you don't encapsulate with the clear dip powder and then you go to file and buff your nails, you may get a little overzealous and start buffing your butt away, and next thing you know, you're taking color off, and then you got to go back and re-dip and reactivate, and again, stuff you don't want to have to do and frustrate yourself. And it's also time that you could be doing something else fun after you've done your nails. So this is why I encapsulate in clear. It's just it's one more step, but I think it saves you a lot of time and energy and probable heartache in the long run, especially if you want to do something a little more extravagant with your nails. If you want to do ombre nails or French manicure or nail art, you definitely need to encapsulate in clear. That way you don't file and buff all your beautiful hard work away. So encapsulate with the clear. So now I have done my other hand, and so we have what left to do. We're going to activate so we can file and buff. So again, I'm using my Kiara Sky Seal Protect. That's just the activator that I've used from pretty much day one, and I've never had a problem with it. But activator, I believe, is pretty much activator regardless of what brand you use. So if you have a favorite, use your favorite. You don't have to use Kiara Sky. It's just what I use. Now, I do put 2 coats of the activator on. I have had weird experiences with certain colors. It's not like a specific brand or a specific color, but I have had experiences where I've put 1 coat, I thought everything was fine, I went to use my e-file, and there were like chunks flying off my nail. So I'm like, uh-oh, maybe I should put another coat of activator on. And it seemed to do the trick. So now, without any hesitation, I do 2 coats of activator every time I dip. And I haven't had a problem with, chunks flying out of my nails since then. So 2 coats of activator, and then you're going to let that dry, obviously, until your nails make that little clicky noise and they're ready to file. Now, I use my Makartt 100 grit file. It's my favorite file ever. I have probably a million of them just because I'm afraid of running out and I'm a little lunatic-y when it comes to stuff like that. Like, what if they don't make them anymore? So I go and I buy a million of them. I'm showing you this because if you pinch the sides of your nails away from your nail, I don't know if that makes sense. Just give a little pinch to the skin next to your nail. This will release any product that's stuck from your nail. It'll make it easier to file. And I always have my same filing routine. I do my sidewalls first, get any excess dip powder hanging off the edge or the sidewall, get all that gunk off. So I do my sidewalls first, and then I'm going to go ahead and do my free edge. And I know that this can be difficult for some people who like certain shaped nails. I've always been more of the square, or I'll even go so far as to say tapered square. It's a slight taper, but I don't know. Square nails are beautiful and I love them, but sometimes they can make your fingers look wider. So I like to take the sides in ever so slightly. But that's really all I do. If you have, round nails or almond nails, or if you're trying to rock the stiletto nails, which I'm totally afraid to do. I've never done a stiletto nail before, simply because I am probably one of the most accident-prone people I have ever known. And I would be that person who winds up going to the hospital, Dip Nail sent me to the ER because I stabbed myself in the eye with my stiletto nail. So I can't, I'm terrified. But for those of you who want to rock a stiletto nail or any other shape, You just file and shape as you normally would, whatever shape or style you like. Again, here I'm doing more of a square, and it's actually more of a tapered square. If you see, I do angle my file a little bit just to pull those ends in slightly. But for the most part, if you want a really straight edge, you got to keep that file as straight as possible when you're filing the free edge. I'm talking about perfect angles, perpendicular to your nail or parallel, flat up against your nail. Because if you rock that file in any way, shape, or form, you're going to wind up with a curved nail. And if you are trying to do square or coffin or anything with a flat, free edge, you support your nail and just file as perfectly straight as possible. If you need to go in one stroke, go in one stroke, just one side instead of rocking back and forth. But this is, how I do my normal filing. And I usually do have some gunk on my side walls that I have to just either, push out of the way or to get my file in there. It sometimes can be a little bit of a trick, but I find this file, the Makartt 100-100, it's nice and coarse, so it does a good job of removing product quickly. Don't ever use it on your natural nail. I would say probably just for acrylics only. But I love this file. It's also very hard and strong, so it doesn't bend. Remember I was saying about how you got to keep that file straight if you're doing your free edge and you want it square. This file doesn't bend, so it's going to stay nice and straight, which I really, really like. And they weren't expensive either. I've mentioned them before. I got them from Amazon. It was only a couple of bucks for a box of like 10 or 12 files, so love those files. Okay, so now we've filed. I'm going to do my other hand actually. So now both hands have been filed, and now it's time for the cuticle cleanup party. I know a lot of you have been asking me specifically how I get my cuticle lines to look the way that they do, and they're not perfect. I don't pretend that they are. I don't claim that they are, but I think they're pretty nice. And this is the key. This bit right here. It is a cylindrical diamond drill bit, and it's probably on the chubbier side. I've seen some skinny ones, but that one's a little bit thicker. This is what I use every single time I do my dip nails. This is how I get my cuticles to look the way that they do. Now I'm going to show you, in regular speed the first few nails, and then I'll speed it up a little bit just because I don't want this to get mundane or redundant for you. But this is how I do it. I literally take this and I go in between my nail and my cuticle, or my nail and the sidewall, and I just take off that excess product and make a straight line. And look at the difference. Not that it was bad before, but you can see a very definitive cuticle line. So that's how I get my cuticle line. And now what I'm doing is I'm going to smooth any bumps or ridges or indentations you may have had. This is going to be great for that too. You almost don't even need a buffer if you're going to use this, because it does get your nail very smooth. So I do look at my nail from all angles. I want to make sure I have a little bit of an apex there. I want to make sure there are no indentations, like I said, bumps, divots. I do narrow down the free edge a little bit just because I don't like my nails to look or feel super thick. So you can see I do that. I just file it down a little bit on the free edge and on the cuticle, and then you want that apex to be right, in the back third of the nail. So that's what I like my nails to look like. Of course, some of this is personal preference. If you prefer your nail to be on the thicker side, don't file as much, or do an extra dip if you want to do that. So here it is again, right alongside, and this doesn't hurt. Have I cut myself before? Yep, I have, because I had my drill on way too high, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was inexperienced. I was still getting to know my e-file, which, yes, you will have to get to know your e-file. I know most of them are built pretty much the same, but they are all different, and they feel different, and they sound different, so you have to get to know your e-file. When I do my cuticle cleanup after I dip, when I file in my acrylics, I have it on, I would say a medium on the lower end of the spectrum. So almost a medium low. When I do my nail prep, I do use an e-file for my nail prep as well. I don't use this bit. You shouldn't use this bit on natural nails. I use a very, very fine grit. I think it's a 240 grit sanding band, which is pretty much the same grit as a buffing block. And I only use that around my cuticle. I'm sorry, my allergies are killing me. If you hear me sniffle, I apologize. But if you're interested in seeing how I do my nail prep, I do have a video on this YouTube channel as well. So I'll link that also, which is exactly how I prep my nails from right after I soak off, or from bare naked nails to being dip ready. So you should check that out too if you have questions about nail prep. But for here, again, I'm doing the same thing as I did on the other two nails. And this is the broken nail. This is the one that had the tea bag repair. So look how good that looks. You can't even tell there's anything there. But again, I go around the cuticle, right next to the sidewalls, between the sidewalls and the skin, and just get rid of any excess product. I'm going to take down the free edge just a little bit, just to reduce some of the thickness, especially because that was the nail that was broken. So there is extra product on it. We had that clear dip underneath the tea bag, or over the tea bag rather. So I wanted to take that down just a hair. So now I'll speed the video up for you so you can get a gist of how I do the entire hand. But the e-file, I did dip nails for a good few months without using an e-file, and I wouldn't say that they looked bad exactly, but the e-file definitely was a game changer for me. It's also a time saver too. I don't know the exact time because I don't even think I've timed it before. I will and let you know for sure. But I think from start to finish, it takes me approximately 45 minutes to do a full set. That's from naked nails without prep to completed, top coated everything. About 45 minutes. If I'm doing a soak off or some nail art, it may take me an hour, hour and 15, sometimes hour and a half if I'm doing some intricate detail work with acrylic paint or whatever. But it's been a huge time saver. I think the first few times I did dip nails with no e-file and just regular files, it took me, I don't know, probably 3 hours. And I'm sure some of you can relate to that. And it was like the longest 3 hours of your life too. So now that we've got both hands e-filed and they're looking pretty good, now is the time for those of you who use your dip liquids. You're going to do something different than I'm going to do. I'm not going to do it here actually because I have a nail art video coming up, and I'll post my top coat and stuff there. But if you're using dip liquids, you can wash your hands, use a brush off all your nails, and then you're going to apply Seal Protect one more time. Because the Seal Protect, or your activator is actually what is going to activate your top coat and make it shiny. So you'd buff your nails real good, put on your activator, and then you'd put on 2 coats of your number 3 or number 4, whatever number it is, your top gel. Me, I'm a gel polish girl, so I don't usually use the buffing block on top of my nail at all because that will make it not adhere, the gel polish not adhere to the nail, but I will soften up the edges just so I don't stab myself in my sleep or something, because as previously mentioned, I may be the most klutzy person ever. So now we're all done, and I'm gonna upload a video with how I finish this mani in a little bit, but here's a little bit of a small sneak peek. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you found it helpful and useful, and please let me know. Thumb up and subscribe, and tell me if there's anything else you guys want to see in the future. All right? Thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see y'all later.